Ladies, welcome to another episode of the Revitalized Womanhood Podcast. And I am so excited today to have with me Ashley Sorenson. She is, okay, so do you call yourself a pelvic floor specialist?
I do. That's just the easiest. I mean, if we go to like technical titles and stuff, it's corrective exercise pelvic floor specialist. But pelvic floor specialist, it's what I do. That's what it gets to the point, right?
That's your focus. That gets to the point, and it says exactly what it is and what you're looking for, which actually I shouldn't say started, I went to one. So I went back to my doctor because obviously we've been away and who knows, I had a baby 3 years ago. So the last time I've seen my doctor, you know how it goes.
Right.
And they're like, okay, well, do you want to have a referral to a pelvic floor specialist? And I was like, yes, I do. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. I would love that. Now I do Pilates, and a lot of Pilates talks a lot about the C curve and the pelvic floor and whatever. This did not prepare me whatsoever with what happened when I walked into that room. Now maybe you have this nearby, but she pulled out the whole pelvic structure, right? And she showed me all the insides and how all of the muscles that just connect every single bit of your body inside of your, what is that even called? Your girdle, your pelvic.
Yeah, the pelvic bowl, the pelvic girdle, so many different names for it. I do. I have that photo sitting right next to me here. Like,
I couldn't believe all the muscles.
Yeah.
And I've never even thought of it before. And so I said to her, I am so frustrated. This is me. This is my rant in the doctor's office. I'm like, I am so frustrated with the wellness industry and the health profession that women's health is always last to be like talked about. Like pelvic floor should be something that is prenatal, postnatal, absolutely included. Just like breastfeeding. Breastfeeding needs to be, and a class for breastfeeding needs to be something that we talk about more, and that it's offered freely, given to all women and all moms. And that's what I think about pelvic floor too. And it's just, 100%. It seems like it's just now becoming amazing.
It is, which I'm so grateful for social media because it does. Like, it's a way to get that information out to, again, like you said, like make it free, make it accessible for women. And that's my whole, like, I swear that's my purpose for existing, right? Is just trying to get these things like loud and proud. Like, why aren't we talking about this? Why aren't we taught these things before you leave the hospital, before you even go to the hospital to have a baby? We have 9 months of pregnancy to learn about these things. We have, like, where's the health class in high school talking about this, Exactly. And so education, we have to get better education so that women can like live fully and live comfortably. Like, there's no reason for pelvic pain. There's no reason for peeing your pants when we can fix that. So it's really cool.
So, and she also had this is just off topic, but this is a interesting statistic that I got in the doctor's office while I was there. She was throwing around some good information, but she said that it wasn't even up until the 90s that women were separated from men in studies for healthcare. Women were just considered men.
Yes.
That was it. And we were all considered exactly the same.
And most of the time, so I'm sure everyone's familiar, right? Women run on a monthly clock. We are only the same if you have a 28-day cycle. We're only the same once every 28 days. Men run on a 24-hour clock. And so it's much easier if you are the FDA and you're trying to test something out, to test it on a man who has a 24-hour cycle. They're able to see those changes very quickly. Versus on a woman, you have all of these other variables, which, like, what day of her cycle is she on? Is she ovulating? Is she menstruating? Where is she at? We have these 28, sometimes 30, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter, depending on your cycle. We're on that monthly clock. And so it's really difficult for these big companies to say, we're going to test on women and we're going to learn about women because we're so much more complicated. They want to take the easy way out.
Right. Exactly. Well, I'm glad that it's finally, since the 90s, thank goodness.
Finally.
It's finally,
Yes.
and finally, like you said, social media, these beautiful platforms. I know we give them such a bad rap sometimes, but podcasts, social media, these platforms that are here to scream things like this from the rooftops, right? That's my whole mission. Just like you, my mission in life is for women to live their fullest, happiest lives, with the information that they need to make that happen. And so here we go. What do you want to tell us about if someone said, actually, first, how rude of me, introduce yourself, because you have a really
we just jumped
cool
to the good
title.
stuff.
We did just jump to the good stuff. I love pelvic floor, so it is good stuff. But you have another really cool title. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yes. So I am Mrs. Washington County, which is the entire St. George region. And it is part of the Mrs. America program, the Mrs. World program, which actually just happened last weekend. So it's been all over social media, kind of getting some great awareness. But it is a pageant for married women. So anyone with the title of Mrs. And it's different than your standard beauty pageant because we're not competing for money. We're not competing for prizes. A lot of it is just about getting your message out there. And so that's actually why I decided to apply for Mrs. Utah, is because it gives, like we're talking about these resources, it's going to give me a bigger, better microphone to be able to teach these things and share these things with women. But at the same time, it's a really great way to kind of check in with myself and make sure that I'm spiritually, mentally, physically at my best so that I can present these things and share them to the women of Utah, but hopefully moving up the ladder within their, hopefully sharing these things with the world. So it's really fun. It's been a great experience.
So is your platform Pelvic Floor Health?
My platform is maternal wellness overall. So amazing. I talk about, a lot of the same things you're saying. I talk about the physical, the mental, and the things that we wish we were told, right?
Right.
I have 3 kids, and I look back to, I had my first when I was 20, and I look back to this young 20-year-old version of myself, and I'm thinking of all of the things that I wish someone had told me. And so that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to speak about the physical, the mental, and the resources that are available to help through those stages of motherhood.
And I love that we're getting to, again, talk about these things more frequently and bring them out of the shadows and into the spotlight so that more people, more women feel, like we were just talking about, less intimidated to come out and ask for help, or don't feel alone in their symptoms, like what is happening to me, or not even recognizing what is happening to me, but because now they've seen other women talking about it, they're like, oh, that's what's happening to me. I get it. Yeah, that kind of stuff. I love that. That's what we're trying to do here in this community as well, is empower women to listen to other women and encourage them to tell their stories as well, so that in case there's someone out there that's suffering, they won't have to suffer for very long, right?
Definitely.
So,
I think, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead. You think what? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I think a lot of these things in the past have been reserved for the wealthy, right? Like the wealthy are able to go to therapy. The wealthy are able to have pelvic floor help. The wealthy are able to hire a nanny, right? All of these things that make it easier. And so I'm trying to really bridge that gap to where postpartum depression, pelvic floor dysfunction, these things don't care how much money you make. They will find you. And if we can make sure that the resources are available, that even if you're in a lower income bracket, you're able to have community, you're able to have resources, you're able to get the healing that you deserve through motherhood, and that it's not just reserved for those with higher income.
Oh my gosh. I remember even, I tell this story. I think it's so funny because I think we all feel this way. Every mother feels this way. So yes, like you said, you're 20 years old and you're going home with this baby and you're like, do you know, like, think about how much research you do before you buy a car. Think about how much research you do before you purchase insurance, how much research you do for all of these different scenarios in life, how much information and class experience I mean, there is some out there, but as far as required, okay, we're not required to have any experience to leave this hospital with this new person. And I remember putting that first baby in that car seat and thinking, he's going to die from sitting in this car seat. This car seat is just alone going to crush this baby. Like, I am obviously already doing something so wrong. Now, this is my first baby, and my first baby I was probably 25. We waited. In Utah standards, we waited. Mm-hmm. So I was like 25, still not feeling quite prepared for this, right? Thrown into this. Here we are, we're teenagers, and then we get our cycle, and now we're women. Hooray, good for you. And we have to figure out what that even means. And then we graduate from high school and we come into college and we meet this man, and now we're married, and now we're a wife. And congratulations, you're a wife. What does that even mean? How do I be a wife? I don't understand. I was just trying to figure out how to be a woman, and now I'm a wife. Okay. And then you're looking for all of these things to kind of give you examples of what to do. And then all of a sudden, ta-da, you're a mother. And it's like, what does that even mean? How do I even do this? So the funniest part was after, okay, so first baby, yeah, you kind of feel that way. Second baby's a little bit better. Well, we waited 6 years before we had our third, and it was an emergency C-section. So like, everything was completely different, could not have been worse. And I stayed in that hospital for the full 5 days. They were trying to kick me out. Every day they tried saying, "Are you ready to leave? Are you ready to leave?" And I'm like, "I'm not leaving this bed until you have to pry my fingers off the bar and roll me out of here." And same thing, I thought, I don't know what to do with this baby. And now I know, looking back now, I had postpartum depression. And so instead of thinking, I'm a mom, I have 2 boys, I know what to do, my instincts are going to kick in, I've been through all this before, I'm looking at this baby next to me going, I don't know what to do with you. I am so scared to go home to not only just me and you, like when it's your first baby and it's just you two getting to do your own thing, but now I've got a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old that are going to expect food, their clothes to be cleaned, a husband that's going to expect dinner on the table. Like, I don't know what to do with you. And I remember feeling so overwhelmed in that.
Yeah, I love the similarities with our stories as well. So I had my first at 20, and then a year and a half later, well, just over 2 years later, I had my second, and then we waited 5 years. We had a 5-year gap.
Oh, yeah.
Before I had my third, and my third was a C-section. And that same thing, like, okay, now I've been cut open. As you know, C-section recovery is, in my opinion, more difficult than a vaginal recovery.
Horrifying. I'll tell
you.
And
we go home and we not only have this baby, but we have other kids that we're supposed to take care of. And I can't even get myself out of bed without like grappling onto my sheets and like asking my husband for a hand. I can't even physically get out of bed. And then I don't know about your experience, but I don't feel like I got very much instruction before leaving the hospital with this C-section of what do I do next? And so whether it's a vaginal delivery, whether it's a C-section, whether we have those, like you said, you didn't realize it at the time, but you're suffering with a little bit of postpartum depression. And like, where are the people there to tell us, like, this is not you, Gina. You are an amazing mom. You're doing a great job. This is a little bit of postpartum depression, and I'm here to help.
Yeah.
How far would that have gone in those days? You know?
Oh my gosh. Well, and I do have one experience. Bless this sweet nurse's little heart. We didn't talk about it. So it wasn't like you're saying, openly saying, listen, this could be symptoms of postpartum depression. I think once I got home, I was kind of like, babe, I have postpartum. Just so you know, I'm not leaving this bed for the next 3 months.
Yes.
This is my island. Leave us be, go away. But anyway, in the hospital, so I'm the kind of person, especially because I have my other Instagram account that has collaborations with brands and those kinds of things. And this was a fun new addition to our family after this long amount of time. And so I had lots of brands sending me cool, cute, fun things to be showing off with the baby and all the things. And I was getting his little name board and going to do the little swaddle picture and going to have him in his little outfit, whatever, and I remember looking, and that's me. That is me. I had his little nursery all set up. I had all of this ready to go. I had all the things, and that is me. And I remember sitting there in bed, looking at him in that little glass case and just like, I can't, I have zero motivation. I cannot put you in another outfit. Like I remember telling the nurses where his bag was and like I'm like, just put him in whatever you want. I don't even care, But for this one specific moment, this nurse came in and I was crying. She says, "What is wrong?" And I says, "I need to do his pictures, like in my brain, I know that that's something I wanted to do, but I couldn't get myself to do it. It was weird. I was like trapped in my own body and there was a voice in there saying, do it, but I couldn't do it. And she says, "I'll do it. Where's his outfit? Let's do this. Let's get him. Let's do some pictures. I'll take the pictures." And, she did it. And so now I look back on those pictures and I'm like, thank goodness for her, because I wouldn't have had those without her. I wouldn't have had those memories of him. And thank goodness for that. But what if she would have, like you're saying, taken it one step further and sat with me and said, "Honey, this is what's happening to you right now. Probably this is what you're feeling. This is maybe something you need to talk to somebody about." How much further would that have gone? I feel like I was lucky. I feel like I was truly lucky because I did identify it with myself sooner than later. And anyway, I have so many stories like that. Ladies, if you want to subscribe to the stories of postpartum depression with Gina, like we will have another
That's a whole other podcast, right?
Like a whole other podcast.
Start something else.
Talk about it. Everybody send in your stories. We'll have a whole thing. But I would love for you to tell someone who has no idea what we're even talking about. What's my pelvic floor? Like, what is the pelvic floor? Like, why do I even care that you ladies are talking about this?
Yeah. So the pelvic floor is a lot of times the vagina gets all of the recognition. People think pelvic floor, they think vagina, right? Well, it's actually a lot more. It's everything in that area. So if you think of the space between your hips, your pubic bone in the front, and your tailbone in the back, your pelvic floor is everything in between. So there's this awesome band of muscles referred to as the pelvic girdle, which is responsible for holding up your organs. Isn't that cool? Like, this is responsible for keeping your bowels, your uterus, your bladder. It's responsible for holding those up inside of your core. And then it's also the sphincter muscles that are connected to the rectum, to the vaginal wall, and to the urethra. So we have the band that lifts everything up. And then we also have the individual muscles that we have control over so that we're able to relax to go to the bathroom. And all of them need attention and need help. So sometimes there are women who are really, really tight and they hold a lot of tension. So usually these are the same women that hold tension in their jaw. So if they have TMJ, or if you always wake up with like almost an earache, jaw ache from just clenching your jaw, or if your shoulders are always shrugged up and your neck and your traps are always really tight, those are big indicators that your pelvic floor muscles are doing the same thing, that you're walking around with just those muscles figuratively like white knuckled. You're nice and tight all the time. Maybe your butt cheeks are clenched. And what people don't realize is that tight can also cause dysfunction. So you may be leaking when you jump on the trampoline or when you sneeze because everything's too tight.
Whereas oppositely in everything else, you think tight is good.
Yeah, we want it to be tight. I want a tight pelvic floor, right?
Tighten her up, doc.
Exactly. Yeah. But that can actually cause dysfunction. If we picture like a rubber band just stretched to its max, right? And then you flick the rubber band, whether it's a cough, a sneeze, a jump, stepping up on a curb, anything that makes you pee, and that's going to snap. It's going to lose that control. And it's because these muscles are walking around being held super, super, super tight all the time. This actually didn't occur to me even as I was studying in the pelvic floor, getting my certifications. But I had a friend who had a C-section delivery. And so she's like, my pelvic floor is good, right? You know, nothing came out there.
That's what I thought.
Right. We wish. And then when it was time to return to intercourse, she was completely unable to have intercourse because everything was just so tight and she had held on to everything so tightly. Well, then she hits Dr. Google and Dr. Google says, pelvic floor issues, do your Kegels. And so she starts doing Kegels like Google tells her, and therefore tightens the pelvic floor even more. And things continue to get worse for her over the course of a minute. And she's just like, well, I'm not doing enough Kegels. That's what Google tells me to do. That's what everybody says we need to do to keep our pelvic floor in good condition. And it took her a really long time to be able to relax those muscles and get back to her regular intimate life, but also the toll that it took through the rest of her body. And so just PSA, if you have a C-section, your pelvic floor is still experiencing a trauma. Not only the trauma of carrying your baby for 9 months, but also the trauma of being cut through. Because like we talked about, those muscles, they go all the way up. They go all the way up your core, into your low back, into your glutes. And so many of those are being cut when we're having our C-section. And so the recovery for pelvic floor is just as important for our C-section moms as it is for our vaginal delivery moms.
You just answered two of my next questions just in what you were talking about. How can a weak or dysfunctional pelvic floor affect women's daily lives and quality of life? Well, there you go. That's absolutely, we nailed right on that. And then you moved right into, are there any common misconceptions or myths surrounding pelvic floor health?
There's a lot of them. We'll open
Let's
the
hear
can
some
of worms.
more. Let's hear some more. But debunk them for us, because that was my first one. Because here I am, 2 vaginal deliveries, and I don't have any leaking. I don't have any, I feel like everything's great. I'm in good condition. Yay, go team. And then I have a C-section. I'm like, sweet. Now everything will totally be intact. No, I had all of my worst situations that will definitely be too much information for this podcast episode, but I could talk to you normally with, because of the C-section. I didn't realize that's what it was from, but that's what it was from. Just having this one meeting, ladies, just this one meeting with this pelvic floor specialist that I went and saw. And she told me, I made a story about it right after I left there saying, I'm so mad. I've been breathing wrong my whole entire life. Why wasn't someone there telling me, no, you're breathing wrong. You need to breathe like this so that you're not creating all of the pressure that is now creating all of the problems that you're having. Something as easy as how you breathe.
Yes, definitely. So I want to talk about some of the things that you said that could affect your daily life. So obviously, intercourse, right? We all want to be able to show up our very best selves in that department.
Right.
But also things like back pain that people sometimes don't realize can be connected to your pelvic floor. If you have that chronic sciatic nerve pain or just an achy lower back, a lot of times your pelvic floor can be the cause of that.
I'm going to stop you real quick and tell you this is the worst. I went to a doctor, family doctor. I obviously won't name his name. And I said, I have the worst lower back pain. I don't understand. I have a really good core. I work out my core every day. That's what I focus on at the gym. I'm very careful about what I do. And he says, you're a mom and you have kids and you're lifting them. This is just normal mom pain.
That is my least favorite word in the entire English language.
Oh,
normal. Don't tell me this is normal.
What? I have to live like this forever because I'm a mom? That's your answer? It's pelvic floor issues?
Yeah, pelvic floor issues can definitely, it's that support system. It's the support system at the lumbar vertebrae, at the base of your spine. And so if you imagine that pelvic tilt, if you have a pelvic tilt where your pelvis is constantly tipping forward, which is technically called an anterior pelvic tilt, when you have that big curve in your back, your booty kind of pops out, that can cause pain. Or the opposite, if your booty tucks under and if you're a chronic butt clencher and you kind of have that flat mom butt, that can be a pelvic floor issue. And those can really contribute to lower back pain. But the word normal, like, don't tell me this is normal. If something's hurting you, it's not normal. If you're uncomfortable doing daily tasks, this isn't normal. And you don't just have to deal with it because you're a mom and because you've had babies. And so that's why we got to talk about it. Because if we can talk about it and so-and-so got help and she tells someone else at the park that they can get help, and maybe you send them this podcast episode, we're spreading the word, and people can, how much would it mean for someone who has chronic back pain to finally be able to get on the floor and play Legos with their kids? That's huge.
I think that's amazing. I say things like that all the time. Like, ladies, if you are, it doesn't, because there's, in this world of influencers, right? You've got so many influencers, and they've proven the study. They don't even pay money. All these brands don't even pay money to their advertising companies as far as to do commercials or those kinds of things anymore. Really, they're looking at influencers. They're looking at social media. That's where their budgets, their huge budgets, are now. And it's like, okay, you're watching all these people. Well, listen to this. If you had someone that you trusted that was talking about a vacuum that would vacuum your floor and do the dishes and change your baby's diaper, this machine just did all of these things, it was the best thing in the world, you wouldn't even care that you weren't getting any money from telling people about this. You'd be screaming it from the rooftops, because you know, as a woman, you would want all these other women to feel the same relief of, wow, now all my floors are clean and my dishes are done and my laundry's being folded. This machine is doing it all. I'm going to tell everybody about it. So that is exactly what we're talking about here. If you can just help, if you can help one more person relieve some of the stress and pressures and pains that they're living through, maybe not even physically, but emotionally, because of things like they can't have intercourse with their husband. So what does that look like? If someone didn't realize that this was a pelvic floor issue that could be fixed, but maybe it was the husband maybe thinking it's the wife just like not wanting to have sex or whatever. Can you imagine the spin cycle that would just put them into this marriage, when really it's like, just talk to someone, just open up about what's going on with you enough that you can ask for help. But maybe if they've already heard it from someone else, they've got that little idea in their head already that might just trigger something to make them think, oh, I remember hearing this on a podcast the other day. This is probably what's happening. I need to go see a specialist.
Yeah, most definitely. And what's really cool is that pelvic floor specialists are becoming much, much more common. So there are different types of pelvic floor specialists. So for example, my background is in exercise. I started as a personal trainer. I started with the get fit, get strong, lose weight. And then I brought my specialty down to women and the core and pelvic floor and got my certifications there. But there are also people who, for example, could be a nurse practitioner and then start to specialize. Or there are people who could be a physical therapist or a physiotherapist. There's a lot of different options. There's external therapy where, like what I do, you have your clothes on the whole time. We just focus on exercise. We focus on posture. We focus on that breath you talked about. Or there are people who do internal therapy where you lay there, you have a gown, and they do all the work for you. And so there's just a lot. And going back to that, what we talked about, I believe that every person, not even woman, but every person, man, woman, child, deserves to feel good. Like we have the right to feel good. And whether that be postpartum depression, anxiety, there's help for all of these things. Pelvic floor dysfunction. Like if you had, for example, like if you had a really bad cold that wasn't going away, you'd get some help for that, right? And sometimes we push these other things under the rug, like, oh, I can live with it. It's fine. It's not worth, the effort. But we all deserve to be comfortable. We all deserve to give our best. And if we can help each other do that, let's shout it from the rooftops.
Did you know that there's a study? I think, I just heard this in a book I was reading, but there's a study. Oh no, it was a pastor. He was saying it. There's a study that's been proven that people do not feel they deserve care. They do not feel that they deserve this kind of care. And it's been proven in a study that showed if you have someone that's sick and they've been diagnosed and they've been given a pill that says this will fix this for you, they will not take it. And I think it's a very, very insane number. 20% of people will actually take the pill. I mean, it is insanely low, the number of people. But if they have a dog that requires a pill, do you know how hard it is to give a dog a pill? Do you know how easy
they're going to do it though?
Like, yeah, they will do it. 100%. 100% of the people will give the medicine to their dog. But they won't.
Or can you imagine? Like, I'm sure this study would be the same or even greater for like our children. Like, if you tell me my child needs something, done. But for me, it's so much harder.
Do you know what I tell my ladies in my community is how often this is the best one because I think we can all relate to this, is I say, how often do you hold your pee? Seriously. I did it yesterday, and the whole time I was
floor health also.
I was washing dishes, and I'm like, I need to go to the bathroom, and I'm like, oh, if I could just get the rest of this sink done, then I'll go. Like, it was a reward to go because I did the dishes, but then I still didn't. I'm like, the baby called me to do something else, and I'm like, oh, I'll go do that. And then I got pulled to do something else, and I kept thinking to myself, you're insane. You are a crazy person. Go to the dang bathroom. But I say that to my women in my community all the time. I'm like, look at what your needs are. And you are constantly putting yours completely on the bottom of everybody else's in your life.
Yeah. And it is like, can you imagine how many amazing things that like all of these women have to offer? And if we can build that, like, just the basic needs, if all of these women met their very, very basic needs and got themselves going to the bathroom when they need to go to the bathroom and got themselves eating when they need to eat. How many moms have skipped lunch and just ate macaroni and cheese out of their baby's bowl and all these things? Like, let's eat when we need to eat. Let's move when we need to move. Let's breathe when we need to breathe. And I'm by far not perfect at it. There are many times that I have to stop and say, like you said, just the other day, like, oh, I need to pee. I should go now. And everyone can wait for me. And I deserve you to wait for me. And like, we just need to build up that confidence and that appreciation for ourselves.
Yeah, it's that self-worth. It's like, really? Love yourself enough to know that your needs are just as important. I say, okay, if you're telling me that your value, okay, when we talk about values and goal setting, whatever, if your value, like most women I know, your number one value is your family, right? That's the whole theme of this community. Your number one value is your family. And I'm like, okay, well, how many people are in your family? Okay, because I have my husband, I have 3 little boys. Oh, wait, there's one more.
There's me.
I'm in my family. Wait a minute. That doesn't mean that now I'm taking care of these 4 boys all the time and never taking care of myself. I have my family too. So don't you dare come at me and say that your number one value is family, and you do not give yourself any self-care or any kind of allowance for your own needs to be met.
I love that. I love that so much. Yeah. You are part of your family. You are a key part of your family. You are the glue to your family.
Right.
Make sure that you're getting what you need, even if it is just going pee when you have to go pee.
So what are some other, I kind of went off on a tangent. That's kind of what I do. But what are some other myths surrounding pelvic floor issues that you come across?
Yeah. So the big one that I mentioned a little bit before, Kegels. Kegels don't fix everything. Kegels are actually only 50% of the time even relevant to what you need. Yeah. And then also like some of the myths that you hear, like, oh, practice your Kegels on the toilet. Well, if you stop the flow of urine, you're increasing your chances for UTI. Like, there's just a lot of misinformation out there. You'll see ads for the little Kegel devices that you can put in, and you can play a little video game on your phone while squeezing your muscles.
Oh, I have seen that.
Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Super cool if Kegels are what you need. But being aware
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like
You're self-diagnosing.
if my sweet friend would have bought that Kegel machine and been really working hard and upping her weight and doing heavy Kegels and all these things, who knows how long it could have been before she was able to actually relax her pelvic floor muscles and return to intercourse with her husband. And then just the symptoms of pelvic floor dysfunction. We talked about back pain. There can be painful intercourse, leaking. Another common one that I see is women who exercise frequently. Like you were saying, you work on your core a lot, but you're still experiencing maybe like your lower belly just doesn't respond when you do core work. And you're able to get like your top 2 abs really good and really strong, but your lower belly still seems to be soft and it just doesn't respond. And sometimes we'll be told that's normal. You're a mom. That's going to stay there forever. But it actually can be a symptom of pelvic floor dysfunction because your pressure is pushing down and out instead of in and up. So
that's
one
what
thing
she just told me about was my scar. And she's like, you're just making it worse by doing that. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yep.
Like, you're breaking my heart. Like, I'm glad I have this information now, but you just had to be the one that just broke my heart because this is what I've been doing my entire life.
I know.
And now there's what I've been working on at the gym worse.
There is nothing fun about being the person to be like, oh, all those hours you've been putting in, you're actually doing it wrong. Right? Like we don't enjoy that part of our job. But one thing that I would love to teach everybody is just how to breathe. Like you said, like you were told like, okay, you're doing this wrong. But the incredible thing is that if we can switch the direction of pressure management, we can change a lot. So if everybody pictures like a soda can, just a classic little soda can, the very base of that, the bottom of the can is going to be your pelvic floor muscles. The part of the can that holds the label all the way around is going to be your core canister. So you have your front, your 6-pack abs, you have your back along your spine, you have your obliques along the sides, and then the very, very top is your diaphragm. So we have that diaphragm, and that's your entire core. Everything's contained in there. All the goods are inside. Well, anytime there's pressure, what happens to a can if you place it in the freezer? It's going to explode. What happens to a can if you stomp on it? It's going to burst. But if we're able to just manage that pressure by simply opening the tab, we're able to let all of that out. And opening the tab is your breath. So we're able to manage all of the pressure through that entire core canister with your breath. So
sorry, go ahead. Yeah, finish that thought.
No, I was just going to say, so if you place your hands on your hips and you take a big breath in, we actually want that big inhale to expand your core. Your lungs are now full of air. Your rib cage should get bigger. Your belly should get bigger. Everything should expand. And then as you exhale, that's when we want it to return to neutral, and we're going to let that pressure out.
I think everybody, this mic probably picks up and I'm like,
yeah, big panting breaths. But yeah, like if you just try that and you kind of practice it, because a lot of times I see people when they take an inhale, they're like, and it doesn't really go anywhere. Their core doesn't go anywhere, only their chest will lift. It does take some practice. It sounds like the easiest fix ever. Everybody just breathe right and we're done. It takes a lot of practice. And then implementing that when you're lifting your children, when you're carrying something heavy, when you're in the gym, and even just as you're like walking around for daily life, what that's going to do is that's going to give your pelvic floor and those lower abs, your core, a nice, good, solid brace before you pick up your, I don't know, how much does your 3-year-old weigh? He's
40 pounds.
Yeah, you're picking up your 40-pound 3-year-old. I know it.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah. And so if we're able to do that with the proper breath, and when you bend down, we're going to inhale. When you lift up that child, that baby, your heavy gallons of milk, and you let that exhale come out, the pressure goes out with the breath instead of down onto your scar tissue from your C-section, or down onto your pelvic floor, or out that belly pooch, or into your low back where it's already hurting. And that's what I spend my hour-long client sessions teaching.
And it is absolutely a practice, just like anything else, just like yoga, just like affirmations, just like anything. It is not easy. I go to the gym all the time, every day. I go to the gym every day, and I take these classes specifically for these areas. And I now know that I breathe opposite of what I'm supposed to breathe. That's my natural breath. So because I have these couple instructors that are really good to be very dramatic about their breathing, so that you know exactly what, if you're raising your legs, it's an in, or whatever, but I am notoriously opposite. Every single time I have to mentally flip and do it the right way with them. So I'm so thankful for those kind of instructors. So any instructors out there, if you feel like you're breathing like ridiculously, you're not. You're helping people, because I was raised in the world that women were raised in, of holding your gut, right? Sucking your gut. Mm-hmm. And so breathing for me is like up here in my chest and my shoulders, which it's not down here where it's supposed to be. And so it is really hard for me to get a good deep breath. I have very shallow breaths. And I learned this in yoga when they do, suck in air, then suck in more air. And I can't do it. It's very shallow. And I'm like, I am breathing wrong. This is so hard. So I'm just letting you all know that this is a serious practice. This isn't just like, oh, now I'm going to breathe better. Great. Good job. This is something you have to be super intentional about, but do it, and then you will learn it, and then you will know how to do it from now on. But I'm going to tell you, I've been doing it wrong my whole life, and now I'm trying to break the habits, and it is not easy.
Yep. It takes so much practice. I actually love when I get to be the teacher of the Pilates class, or these classes where I'm in charge, because it helps me remember the direction that my breath is supposed to be going, so that I can give those exaggerated breathing cues for my classes. And when I'm seeing clients, giving them that exaggerated breath, or sometimes I'm like, even grunt right. At the proper time, so that you're able to just expel that air and manage that pressure within your core. But it isn't easy. I joke all the time that people are going to go home and be like, their husbands are going to be like, oh my goodness, okay, tell me how it was. What did you learn? And they're going to be like, we just sat there and breathed for the whole hour. That's all we did. She just taught me how to breathe. And somehow we're supposed to be able to have intercourse again.
Yep.
It does. It's a process.
It's working. I promise. He doesn't care as long as it works eventually.
It's so true.
In your experience, what are some other effective exercises or techniques that can help strengthen and restore the pelvic floor health?
Posture is a big one. So I know, as we both just sat up,
roll our shoulders back.
Yeah. So if your shoulders, ribs, and hips are in alignment, picture like a Jenga tower. If they're in alignment, your pelvic floor is neutral. Right. If your shoulders are rounded forward, which tucks your ribs back and pulls your pelvis under, your pelvic floor is not in its optimal position. And so working on any exercises that are going to improve your posture. For women, a lot of times I'll have them like massage their chest muscles, or there's so many tools. You can use a gua sha tool, you can use a lacrosse ball, but just really massaging the muscles in your chest. We're always on our computers, on our phones, holding our babies. Mm-hmm. If you're feeding an infant, you're in this loving, caring forward position. And so a lot of times we need massage in that chest. And then we also need strengthening in our back muscles, like making sure that you're really tightening through those muscles. You can use bands, you can use weights, you can use machines at the gym, but it's really giving a lot of focus to strengthening the muscles along your spine that are going to help to hold you up into that proper posture.
I have a teacher that always imagine a string being pulled. Like you're one of those marionette dolls, and you're like slumped in your marionette sitting on the table, right? And then your person comes and picks you up, and your string gets pulled. And it's again a practice. I do it all the time because I have a large chest, and so I feel like when I am in good posture, I'm like, hey, hello, how are you? Like Dolly Parton coming at you. And especially hello when you're nursing. Don't even get me started. Usually I'm just like this hunched over to try to keep everything in. So I don't feel like I'm XXX over here.
Well, and I don't know about you, but I developed very young. I started getting boobs in 5th grade. And so between hunching over to try to hide that and also sucking in my belly, my teenage years were just an awful jumble of really bad posture and really bad movement habits because of like insecurities. So let's be good examples of that. Let's teach our daughters that, guess what? I don't care what size you are. You're going to stand up straight and you're going to breathe because you're allowed to take up space.
It's probably why the first baby is so hard for everybody. It's like a common thing. Oh, it's your first baby. It's going to be a hard one. It's your first baby. Don't you worry. These are all just the problems that come along with it.
You
it makes
just
me wonder
wait.
if it's like, it's like, I wonder if it's because we've been told our entire lives to be uncomfortable in our own bodies. And now we can't do what our body's naturally supposed to do.
Yeah. And then you're supposed to be modest your whole life. And now you're in a delivery room with your clothes ripped off and your legs spread open. Everybody's like, oh, I just had a baby. I could walk in Walmart naked now. Like,
yeah. Oh my gosh.
There's no shame.
I kept telling everyone in the surgery room, I'm like, nobody makes eye contact with me outside of this room. You don't know me. I don't know you. You've never seen me before. They think it's so funny because they're like, don't worry, we wouldn't recognize you anyway. But yeah, all dignity is just out the door.
Yeah. So funny little story to just give everybody a good laugh. I was seeing a doctor for my second baby in St. George. And when I went into labor, I was a couple weeks early and that doctor wasn't able to come. So I got the on-call doctor. The on-call doctor walks into the room, and it just so happens to be my like middle school best friend, her older brother. Like, hey, how's your mom? Nice to see you. Like,
you walked through the doctor door. It's okay. Go ahead. But now once you're outside that door, you're brother again.
You were a doctor. We'd never speak of this again.
Yeah.
Turns out he was really great. He ended up delivering my third too, because he's just an incredible doctor. But it was really funny because I'm sure the color in my face, I just turned bright red and was like, you're the one that's going to deliver this baby now. Okay.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. This is not where we thought we would be when we were back in high school.
Yep.
Oh,
it was great.
I have some women in my community, and of course there are millions of women, but I have some women in my community. This is like the year of babies, apparently, and they are pregnant. So what kind of things, actionable things, can they be working on to make sure that they're not, so like what the pain in your girdle and your hip pain and, things like that, what can they start to work on to not only have the healthiest, most comfortable pregnancy, but recovery?
Yeah, it's going to come down to that breath and posture again. I kind of sound like a broken record, but whether you're pregnant, postpartum, never had a baby, or your baby's 50, like the breath and the posture are really what's going to keep the pelvic floor optimal. Our bodies are amazing and they are designed to carry these babies, but there's a lot of discomfort that comes with it. And so to kind of offset that, just making sure that as often as possible, you are sitting up straight, that you're not trying to suck your belly in when you're carrying a baby. That's not the time to draw everything in and up and keep it really, really tight. So making sure your shoulders are relaxed, your jaw is relaxed, allow your belly to take up the space your belly needs, and focus on that breath, taking those big breaths. Those big expansive breaths.
And you, I'm sure, have plenty others. And what's your Instagram so they can go find you? Because I know you have lots of techniques that they can follow and look for there.
Yeah, there's lots of little like specific things for pubic symphysis pain or for back pain and things, but it's at ash.sorenson, and Sorenson's with an O-N. And you can kind of see a little bit of everything there. I've shared a little bit of the Mrs. Utah stuff, as well as like a lot of very specific tools for.
And I'm going to add that in the show notes as well. I was just going to add the one place, now that you've all heard that I'm doing this all wrong and I don't do anything right. The one place that I actually do feel good and feel like I do it well is if you go down into a child's pose, but open your knees apart. So child's pose, usually you can go roll over your knees, right? But if you open your knees open, so your toes are touching, your knees are open, and then you lay forward, and then let your belly, when you breathe in, hang below your, like between your legs, right? So imagine that pregnant belly. You can't help it when it's a pregnant belly. It's just happening. But when it's not, you really let that belly just expand through the center of your legs right there. And it feels so good. But that is like the only position that I have found that I can actually do that correct breathing.
Yeah, that position, hands and knees, is also another one. Gravity is working on your side. So we want that belly to expand towards the floor. Gravity's helping us when we're in that child's pose or when we're on our hands and knees. Gravity's drawing that belly down. And so it's a really great way to practice. Also, if you're pregnant, you can put your hands up on like your coffee table or your couch and just sink back into those hips and because your hips are going to open, your belly's going to sink down with the gravity. Or I've used like a yoga ball to put your arms on, something to kind of prop up that upper body so that you're able to give the belly the space that it needs to drop towards the floor. That's a great position.
Oh, that's so good. So, okay. So finally, what advice would you give? What advice or words of encouragement would you give to these women who feel a little too sensitive to seek out help for these kinds of things?
It's uncomfortable to talk about in the beginning, but start the conversation. Find someone. I'm always happy to talk to you through Instagram or set up a call or things. It really is my passion and my mission to help women start to feel more comfortable about these topics. So maybe you don't feel comfortable with your friends or your sisters or your mom, but talk to Gina, talk to me, talk to me. Another great option, like with social media, is that we're able to connect with people that maybe we don't live next to, or
the little bit of anonymity, separation.
Yeah. So I won't make eye contact with you if I see you in the grocery store and we've talked about your pelvic floor. It's okay. But reach out, like just reach out. Be a little more open. And the more open we are, you never know. Like it may be 20 years from now, it may be our daughters that are struggling with these things. And so if we can learn, like maybe don't do it for yourself, but do it for your daughter or do it for your sister or do it for your friend. Because we want, like we talked about, like that self-worth goes really, really far. And everybody should be able to feel comfortable in their body and feel comfortable in their mind, and just, you are worth it. You do deserve to feel good. So let's help each other do that.
Be your own advocate. I love it. Yeah. That was so good. You're amazing. Thank you so much for being here. This was so interesting. And now I'm going to be like, I have already been searching through your page, but now I'm going to be way more into it.
I know. Let's sit up straight.
Oh my gosh.
Get our breath right. We got it.
Shoulders away from the ears, lady. It's so funny. If anybody's watching this on YouTube, everybody at the same time watched us. We'll sit up straight.
It was perfect.
Obviously not doing
back. This. Really, really breathe. But thank you so much for having me. Yeah. I love both of your pages, but I really love what you're doing for women and the space that you're creating. You have so many good things to share.
Thank you. Well, I'm here to support you in anything you need. So just reach out. We're in the same town, Southern Utah. So I'm here if you need me. If you need any other advocate for anything, I'm pretty loud. I'm pretty noisy. So I'm there for it. And if it has to do with women's health, I am there for it. Yeah. Hey, I will say, oh, dang, but this episode, no, it won't. This episode's Tuesday, but I'll tell you when we stop recording. Sorry, guys. I missed it on this one, but I'll let you know on my Instagram. So watch for it on my Instagram. All right. Thanks, girl.
Thanks, Gina.